Appreciate that. Let's get this going again on Facebook. All right, we've got the Facebook Happiness Coaching Group live. Now we just have to do one last main channel. Eventually, it's not going to be this way. I'll be doing the lives in the my school community group. So until then, we're just going to have to deal with multiple phones, and I'm not in my usual setup, so why is this doing this? It's not letting me do it on the main page. One moment, please. Fun times. Facebook does not want me to go live on my main page, so it's just going to have to be the group, and then we'll just upload it. So we're going to do it that way. All right, guys. Thank you so much for those on TikTok that you guys have been patient, that you've hung around. I appreciate you. So the topic today is called trigger warnings, and when you're going through a lot of changes, you can experience emotions that come up. And this happens not only if you're going through healing, if you have experienced a loss in the family, breakup, any of those kind of things, it's going to bring up a lot of emotions. Even if you're doing system changes in business, this can happen and it'll bring up emotions, and different people are going to react in different ways. And it is really important to understand what your trigger warnings are. And be aware of those, not so that you can go, oh, I got triggered, oh, please help me. No, that is not what we're talking about here. We have to be responsible for our own emotions and understand what our past experiences have maybe created liabilities within ourselves, to understand what those emotions are, and then be aware of ourselves to be able to manage those emotions as we go through that. Nobody else is responsible for our emotions. Now, if somebody's doing something directly, if somebody comes up and smacks you in the face, yes, you're going to have an emotional reaction, unless you're a professional fighter or something like that. But for the most part, we will be affected by other people's actions, and being aware of how we've been affected previously in the past, and understanding what those triggers may possibly be, and then learning how to manage and mitigate our own emotions is a key piece at being able to live a happier life and have happier relationships as well, because we can be affected by something that maybe in the past, maybe it's something in the present. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep. Hey, Maya, how are you? Maybe you didn't get enough sleep. Maybe you haven't eaten. You're a little bit hangry. You are annoyed at something completely unrelated, but being aware of what it is. Thank you so much for the gifts. Being aware of what you have previously experienced is going to go a long way at being able to help you know what your possible reactions are, right? Because when we tend to get in a state of fear, it will trigger emotions in us that maybe we don't act our best selves. And being aware of it and knowing how to cope with those kind of feelings is really important. So, for example, yesterday I went live after a long period of time where I hadn't been going live, and I was feeling quite anxious. And now that anxiety is for me to deal with. That is not anybody else's responsibility. So I had to sit with those emotions, I had to be able to understand where they're coming from and what it is that I needed to do. So I needed a lot of extra rest today. I needed a lot of quiet time, and being aware of that, because I made a big change in my own situation, I was able to manage my own emotions today and not put that on anybody else, and still show up for today's live in a way that I needed to, so that I could share these experiences with you guys and share tools and tools and tricks on how you can deal with those in a productive way without being an asshat about it, right? We have to be able to manage our own emotions, and being able to understand where, because some of it isn't all just what's going on today. You can have a small event happen today, but if you haven't dealt with the past issues, you're going to end up experiencing a lot of emotions that don't have anything to do with what's going on today. But if you haven't taken the time to heal, you haven't taken the time to understand what's gone on in your past, you don't realize that you're having an 80-20 response to emotional response to what's going on. And this is something that's really important, because I see a lot of people having emotional reactions to stuff that really has nothing to do with their own lives. And being aware of that is so important, so that you can mitigate the challenges that go on in your life. You don't add chaos, you don't add drama to your life because you're reacting and feeling like the entire world is falling apart when it is just something that's going on with you. Okay? And understanding where those fears are coming from, and being able to critically evaluate whether or not that is truth for you, or are you just fearful of what the outcome is. If your fears are valid, have you been able to discuss them? Are you able to talk about what it is that you would like to see different, rather than just blah, projecting and freaking out and calling somebody else names? That isn't helpful. That's not productive. That is not a growth mindset. That is somebody that has been traumatized. And hey, I have been through a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things I've been traumatized by, and it is my responsibility. It's not my fault that it happened. I didn't ask for it. I didn't ask for the repeated shit that keeps coming up either. But it is for me to manage and mitigate those things, so that I don't project all of my traumas on somebody else. Now, you can also be aware of what somebody else has gone through, and you can make allowances or understandings, more understandings is what I would say, of what somebody else has been through, so that you can provide accommodations, just like you would somebody who is in a wheelchair, right? You don't want to expect them to be able to climb stairs like everybody else. If you've been through things and you maybe need a little bit more quiet time than somebody else so that you can focus, you need to know that about yourself enough to be able to ask for that in a way that you are not demanding it, but you are acknowledging what it is that you need, from a place of saying, hey, you know what, I've been through these things. I can do whatever it is that you need me to do. However, I would be much more productive and better able to perform if I had these circumstances set up for me. Doesn't mean the other person's an asshole if they don't accommodate either, right? They may be able to say, you know what, I understand that you need these specific requirements. However, the job requires you to do X, Y, or Z, right? And if you can't meet those criteria, it's unreasonable to expect somebody else to make those accommodations if it prevents the safety of other people. So when we are going through emotional changes, it is really important for your own happiness not to add additional drama to the situation, because you will end up damaging relationships. You will end up damaging yourself because you don't feel like you can fit in. You now think nobody likes you, any of those kind of things. And whether you have ADHD, autism, any of those kind of things, I know I get triggered by certain noises. And I have to be careful how I manage that. When I was younger and I didn't know any better. So here's one thing. So chewing noises are a huge fucking trigger for me. Huge trigger. And when I was younger, I didn't know this. And I used to get physically violent with my brother. I used to smack him. That was the environment that we grew up in. And I would smack him when he chewed with his mouth open. Now, today, he thanks me that I did that for him, but that's not the appropriate way to deal with that. Now, I'm a little bit older. Times are different back then. That would definitely not be cool now. Just like leaving your kids alone at a young age was perfectly acceptable back then when I was younger. But it's definitely not something that is done in this day and age, right? Why? Because we know better. Not because kids are a snowflake, but because we understand how things affect children at certain ages. We are much more aware as a species, I would hope, that so we have different things in place to be able to help us achieve the best results, right? So where I was going with that is just because you used to behave a certain way and that was okay with how you grew up doesn't mean that that is the best way now, right? So sometimes some changes need to happen, and we need to be aware of our own upbringing, what worked, what didn't work, and be aware of other people's upbringings, what worked and didn't work for them, so that we can start putting in ways of communicating that doesn't put down the other person. In no way, shape, or form is that ever cool. It's not acceptable. Now, yes, we have to have a little bit of a thicker skin. I not only grew up in a tough environment, I also worked in tough environments where, there's no crying in baseball, kind of, that's an older quote. So if the younger people on TikTok don't understand what I'm talking about, it's okay. Look it up. There's no crying in baseball. We used to have this joke in transportation. There's no crying in transportation, right? And you just had to do what you had to do to get the job done. You had to get the shipments there on time. So a lot of times what that meant was you had to not deal with any of the emotions that happened in the moment. But there's a little bit of a credit card bill, that emotional credit card bill, that ends up racking up. And eventually you do have to pay that credit card bill. You do have to pay that emotional toll that it's taken on you. So having good tools and good strategies on understanding what it is that you need is going to allow you to feel much happier, to process those emotions. And sometimes that may mean you have to cry because you're frustrated or you're angry, or you have to journal. Maybe you have to exercise it out. Whatever coping mechanism that is beneficial to you, that you can move forward in a way that is productive, right? That it's not holding you back, right? So if it's still holding you back, then there may, or it's causing other problems that you now have to deal with. You're just deferring the payment. It's like paying one credit card with a different credit card. So that could be addictions. of any sort, right? If you're doing it as an avoidance tactic rather than a processing, truly sitting with those feelings, feeling those feelings, and then being able to move through them, right? You don't want to get stuck in those emotions. You want to be able to understand where they're coming from, what's going on with you. If they're tied, if it seems like a disproportionate emotional response for the situation, and it's like, why am I having a meltdown because I can't find a pencil? Right? Why am I having a meltdown about a celebrity on TV that has nothing to do with my personal life? If I'm having a complete meltdown about something like that, then there are deeper issues going on, and it's okay if you have those deeper issues. But getting bent out of shape about something that really doesn't impact your life is a signal to say, hey, there's something else going on here. And maybe it's triggered a feeling of powerlessness in you, that you don't have control over a situation. Maybe it's triggering something that has caused you to feel like anger and rage at a different experience, but you don't have the ability to rage at what went on when you were a child because that wasn't safe. You had to maybe conform, you had to just go along because that was the coping strategy, or maybe you didn't have any control and you didn't have choice over what happened to you. If that's happening to you as an adult, this is an opportunity to be able to heal the past by being able to stick up for yourself in a way that's actually beneficial for you, rather than doing it in a way that is detrimental to your well-being. So you want to be able to stand up, voice what it is that you need to, be able to see a different perspective, because as adults, we should be able to not only understand our perspective and be able to speak up and voice it, but we also need to be able to be in a place where we can hear the other side. We can hear the other perspective, even if we don't like it. Okay? Even if we don't like it, we need to be able to hear that perspective. We maybe need to see what's going on and be able to adjust. And even if it's to the point where we have to agree to disagree, or maybe sometimes it's like, no, I absolutely do not agree with that perspective, and it's dangerous for these particular reasons, but we need to be able to back that up factually, not just emotionally. If we're in a situation where we're just emotionally reacting, we have no control over our own lives, and we will feel powerless, and that will make us feel extremely unhappy. Nothing will make you feel unhappier faster than not feeling like you have control over your own life and what's going on with you. And seeing injustices done and being unable to change that will cause extreme unhappiness. Being able to feel like you can identify what the problem is and you can actually do something about that problem is where you're going to feel much more empowered. And so that'll happen whether it's a work environment, a business, your emotional relationships, family, friends, spouses. Any of those things will change your happiness level. If you don't feel like you have control over the situation, if you are just stuck in emotional reactions, being aware of what your triggers are, being able to take that step back and being able to calm yourself emotionally and be able to not react in a negative way and be able to show up in a way that's productive, harmonious, and helpful, so that you can explain what's going on with you. You can understand what part is yours, what part is the other party's, and know where your bottom lines are, what you're willing to negotiate on, and what you are absolutely not going to accept, right? Inhale deeply and exhale slowly. Yes, taking that time out for yourself, and think before you speak, because sometimes when you speak, it can, and I've been guilty of this. I'm not saying this because I'm perfect. I could go, oh shit, man, I should have thought a little bit or taken a few minutes before I responded. And I've done that many times, especially in the work environment where you're just like, this is the one time you've had enough. That's it. You're going to blast somebody. You send off that email, and that is the one time you probably should have shut it. And I've been caught in that many times. So I've learned through trial and error, through wisdom. And wisdom is being able to recognize, oh, I've been down this path before. I need to make different decisions this time, instead of being naive and reacting and just firing off, right? And hey, we're all human. You know what? We all have bad days, and we cannot expect that other people like to live in a bubble, right? We have to be able to say, you know what, that person's having a bad day. They're are you okay? Do you need a hug, kind of thing? And not take it so personally. And if you are taking it personally, that is a clear sign that you need to look inward at what's going on with you. Because when I'm in a good place, when I am actually truly feeling happy, other people's bad days usually don't have an impact on me. And if they do, it's a signal that I need to look at what's going on with me and get myself in a good place so that I can respond in a much more happier, productive manner, right? When I get myself in a good place and I focus on the things that I need to do for me, then I am less reactive. I am much happier, and I can show up and be productive and not feel like I don't have any control over my life, because the truth is we do have control over our lives, even if it feels like we don't. We do have a choice. We can choose to not participate in somebody else's bullshit drama, right? And getting dragged into it. Yes, the other person could be trying to do all kinds of things to get a rise out of us. I vote in favor of nuclear weapons. Yes, that's probably a good thing that you don't have access to those. There's probably a reason for that. At times, though, when daggers are directed at the person, there's no choice but to take it. Yes and no. We can choose to defend ourselves in the moment. We have to be able to be our own advocates. And if we've been taught in the past that we don't have the right to advocate for ourselves, that we don't have the right to speak up, we don't have the ability to voice what's going on. And we can also choose to kind of go, okay, you know what? Neither one of these parties are in a good place to be able to negotiate. We both need to walk away, have some cool down time, and think about what it is that we truly want out of the situation, rather than getting into a power struggle. Because if we get into a power struggle, nobody's going to win. We need to be able to get to a place where both sides win or both sides lose. And it's not, that's not beneficial for anybody, because even if you win in the short term by beating somebody else down, eventually you're going to be the person that gets beat down. There's always a bigger bully on the playing field. There is always a bigger bully on the playing field. So you don't want to use that as your tactic, because somebody else is going to come along and kick your ass, and it'll be karma. It'll be 10 times worse if you play by those kind of rules. Somebody else is going to come along and kick your ass for it. So don't do it. Try to look for a win-win situation and be able to negotiate in good faith and show up on your side and hold somebody else accountable for their side as well, right? So those are some of the things. So being aware, the triggers, it's like, oh, you triggered me. Okay, great. Now what? What's going on with me? What do I need to do? And maybe it's like, maybe you're in a toxic environment. That absolutely could be the case. Maybe you're in an abusive, toxic environment, and that can be anything for anybody, right? What's toxic to me may not be toxic to you. What's toxic to you may be completely toxic to me. And I mean, like, no fucking way am I dealing with that. And that is perfectly fine. You get to decide what is good for you. And you, when we take that ownership, when we take that um, that ability to take control over our own lives and say, you know what? What's going on? Hey, maybe this is perfectly fine for you, but it is not good for me. I will not be participating. I will be stepping away from this. And when I see these things change, then maybe we can talk. But if not, then you're allowed to do what it is that you need to do for you. And somebody else can make fun of you. That's them. That's them being a jackass. Go ahead, make fun of me. I don't care, right? Because you need to be able to protect yourself in a way that's good for you. Just like you would if you had a child and you didn't agree with somebody else's parenting style. You didn't agree that maybe they believe in smacking their kids around or yelling at them and it's no big deal to them. That is for them. They can deal with that. And if you don't buy into that, that's okay, right? No different than a company that you work for. Maybe somebody is very much, we're calm, we're quiet, it's a safe place kind of thing. And somebody else is like, no, we're competitive. We want to win. We want to dominate. Whatever it is, we have to understand that there's places for all of us in this world. And if that doesn't fit for you, then that doesn't mean that that place is necessarily a bad place. It just means it's not the right place for you. And there is another place. And if you don't like the places that are out there, create your own. Create your own so that you can be happier and you can focus on the things that you can bring to this world. Because each one of us has a role to play here. And each one of us will be happier if we can tap into that and we can step up to who it is that we're meant to be and draw strength from the things that we are experiencing and show up in a way that brings happiness to you and the people around you. So, yeah, so that is the subject for today. Now, if you were in the live group, the paid group that I'm developing, if you want the link for that, then that'll be the place that you can start asking questions. You can give your insights, your feedback on that, and that platform is going to be on School, and that is where you're going to be able to share your thoughts, get your questions answered, and that will be done daily at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if that's something that you're interested in, what I'm going to do with that group is you can have a free 7-day trial, and then it's $99 a month. So it's less than a takeout meal. Come have your daily dose of happiness and ask your questions, and I can do training specific to any challenges that you guys are having, and I can tailor the talks to those specific things. So, but if you want the free stuff, you can come on here, TikTok, Facebook, and my YouTube channel, Coach Tina B, 125. Is my YouTube. Okay, so check out those video trainings. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much on TikTok for the interaction and the comments. I really appreciate that, and we'll have a great night. Take care, guys. Bye.